Yo, the man, Gregory Tan.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Uh, shit. I'm so happy to have you back. It's been a minute since we last met in Singapore. That was really fucking exciting to me. And I feel like for me, it was a beginning to something,
hmm
to meeting the people who I actually talk with on a daily basis. In reality, is just like it gives it a bit more of a face and just like an energy and yeah, I feel like it was a great thing to catch up in Singapore, and now a few months later, we are here. We are
Yeah,
keeping in touch. We are
that's
doing
right.
it. How have you been, Gregory?
I've been good. I've been, well, busy, like pretty much everyone else would probably say, but good kind of busy, thankfully. Um, but yeah, man, just cranking out the tracks, working with the publishers, seeing little bits of results here and there to keep me going. Happy, humbled, grateful. Yeah, and still pushing. What about you?
What is that? I'm good. I'm good.
hmm
But what does that look like when you're saying keeping busy? What does keeping busy look like for you?
Well, I think obviously, like since we both people on the podcast are listening, and they're all aspiring producers and composers, or very established ones that write for sync, or trying to get into the game. I think for me, that just means continually writing tracks, pushing for high quality, pushing myself each time, to give my best for the people that I work with, notably the publishers, or I guess indirectly the clients. So that for me is, that's what it means, um,
Mm.
to just keep on going. Yeah, keeping busy in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think our conversation is gonna connect with my conversation that I've had with Jonathan, which
hmm
it's an episode that will come before you. But I feel like, yeah, this concept of staying busy and doing what it takes to kind of keep yourself
hmm
in and going in the music space,
Yeah,
and it looks different for everyone and anyone, right?
yeah.
And that's I feel like that's these last few podcasts, I feel like this is the most important thing that I want to the most important point that I want to drive is that it looks different for everyone. But you know what? Like, I gotta ask an interesting question.
hmm
What do you feel like are the sacrifices that you are making to be doing what you are doing right now?
Um, well, for me, because I sort of do this like full time, right? Like, so this is like my day job, if you will. And I only have one job, thankfully. Um, I think what I've given up is pretty much what many people in our industry who have done this for a long time um, would say. Probably a lot of time and dedication goes into this, um, and a lot of I guess sometimes the neglecting of the social aspect. Like people who work a corporate job with fixed hours, they're like, okay, it's 6 p.m., like let's go out and unwind. We
Mm.
know for the most part, almost every other day we would probably knock off work at 6 and probably like go get a drink or hang out with friends and family after that. But with what we do, it's not always the case, right? Plus sometimes you have last minute changes you got to make. Sometimes you're in the midst of the customs and you got to like put stuff on hold, or you got to push back um, plans that were probably made in advance. um, so these things for sure, as well as um, I guess a lot of it sometimes, unfortunately, your health takes a little bit of a backseat because you're so focused. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying it happens, right?
Mm.
Your health, and whether it's mentally or physically, mentally is an important one as well, because I think not many people speak about like the potential drawbacks of pushing towards sync placements, or just doing the whole sync licensing thing. I think a lot of us tend to jump right into it, tend to run, like 100 miles an hour, or something like that, and um, burn out, really quickly. And then life sort of forces you to take a backseat and realize like,
Mm.
okay, like I shouldn't be running at this pace. I shouldn't be killing myself at this pace. So there are a lot of things, and I think different things work for different people. But for me, these are the things that I've realized that have I wouldn't say neglected, but that I've sort of sacrificed for. You sacrifice a little bit of social life, a little bit of family time, a little bit of luxuries. You can't like um you can't just tell a publisher like, yo, I know I'm in the midst of custom, but I'm just gonna go out for a beer or something. Like it just doesn't add up, right? It's not
Mm.
responsible. Um and stuff like that, right? So I think as much as it forces you to prioritize, sometimes only going through the process like allows you to figure out what to prioritize. So yeah, for
Mm.
me that was health. That was like quality time. That was like not just blindly focusing on ridiculous hours of long hard work without any positive results. But yeah, so.
Yeah. It reminds me of, you know what? It reminds me of athletes. And I feel like, yeah, athletes are very celebrated. Composers aren't really celebrated, to be honest. Like athletes are very celebrated. They're jacked, like, and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But I mean, especially in the field of, boxing. Let's
Hmm.
just take that field, where I watch a lot of movies. I love watching movies and documentaries and things like that, about people who box or people who golf or people who do singular sports like
Hmm.
we do, as
Yeah.
mostly as composers. And yes, sure, there are the labels slash sponsors, or like the people with the expectations, but
Hmm.
like you have to deliver day in day out, and it really can wear you off. And also it can create, like, this bulldog mentality that is not always positive for a person. Like, okay, let's take uh, um I think even Muhammad Ali, like people
Hmm.
like the people are who are the greats, who don't exit on the high note, like who win the championship and then go spiraling down, like, who
Yeah.
have like the next fights they're gonna lose and lose and lose and lose, and they're just trying to get that one win to get out with, and in that time they're getting knocked out again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And it just makes them, to the world, it's like, why? And to them it's like they're trying to hold on to something. Do you feel like there's a lot of this in music as well, like with identity, with all these kind of things that people want to prove with the online stuff, Facebook,
Hmm.
Instagram, and all that kind of stuff? Do you feel like there is this not letting go mentality, and do you think there are ways to combat that if people are trying to do it full time, of course?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of us, myself, I'm definitely guilty of this. We tie our self worth as composers to the amount of success we have, whether that's
100%.
in the amount or the kinds of sync placements, or just in general, if you write for TV, like the kind of placements that you get.
Mm.
Um, or even the publishers or friends that you're associated with, right? Like, oh, you're part of this team, you're part of this group,
Mm.
um, and these guys are killing it and winning it, and by
Mm.
association, people think, oh, because you're part of this team, it's a matter of time before like you start killing it as well, and that might be true, and that's totally cool, but I feel that it's almost become unhealthy to consistently compare whether it's other people or ourselves to like
Mm.
the larger community of composers out there.
Mm.
Sometimes when it's when you go on social media and you see like the same few guys winning multiple placements,
Mm.
multiple things over and over and
Mm.
over again, with the same few like massive publishers that have been around since in my case before I even started writing music.
Mm.
Like I knew of these guys, and I was just like okay, this has come to a point where it's not doing me any good.
Mm.
I have to find a different focus. So I think it's totally cool if you use social media, if you use Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or anything to talk about like your achievements. I think that's almost in a way sometimes necessary for branding in a digital age, but that's a whole different topic.
Mm.
I think the problem comes in when you start to attach too much um, self valuation or self-worth to these kind of things. And it starts to feel like, oh, someone else's win sort of removes from you a certain amount of value. It
Mm.
sort of makes you feel smaller,
Mm.
and I think that mindset is when, okay, it's time to stay off social media, or to just be brutally honest and raw, with yourself, and go like, why am I feeling this way?
Mm.
Because you can't stop other people from winning, you can't stop other people from like posting their achievements and things like that, right? But when it starts to get to you mentally, emotionally, and affecting who you truly are, I think that's going to be that's a way larger problem than looking at a Facebook post and going like, "Dang, I wish I won that." So yeah, I think we live in an age where there's going to be like, unfortunately or fortunately, more of these kind of things. Like when there's definitely more placements from people, just because there's more opportunities, it's more reason to celebrate, right? But ironically, it creates like more questioning of our self-worth. It creates more looking at ourselves and wondering, why aren't we good as those guys, without actually knowing the journeys of these people that we look
Mm.
up to, or feel salty towards. I'm sort of like balancing both ends of the spectrum here. But like, yeah, ultimately, I think I said in the first podcast with you, you got to learn how to celebrate the success of other people. If not, you'll always compare them to yourself, and you'll always start questioning whether you're good enough, or whether you're, like, just working the right way, or you question your talents and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I think there's this really famous quote. I can't remember where I saw it and who it's by, but it's like, the person asked, "Why do we always look at the failures of people only when they become successful?"
Mm.
you know so it's like, oh, you're so successful, what's your story? And all of a sudden you want to know my story, when previously, when I was up and coming, when I was on the grind, no one cared about me.
Yeah.
Like, it's that funny thing, right? So I ask myself that a lot, like, what is this person's story before they become, like, they're not there yet, but at the rate they're going, it seems like they're going to become something massive one day. I want to get in, and know their story before, and
Mm.
that keeps me grounded in a lot of ways, and it keeps that comparison factor like at a low. I'm not saying it ever goes away, but for myself, I think this is what keeps me in check and keeps my feet on the ground in that sense.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, a few things came up when you were speaking. Like one of them is, you know, I had a conversation with the coordinator in transit and
Hmm.
the
Oh,
agency,
nice. Yeah.
and as I was speaking to her, I was like, these are the friends I need to have. Like I don't need to be friends with the supervisor with Jen Malone or whoever's doing like Euphoria or the I would love to. I would love that, but for me to
Hmm.
come into this room with a completely clear mind, I have to be at a certain, in my the way that I see it, I have to be at a certain caliber and at a
Yeah.
certain calmness within myself, which I'm not in right now,
Hmm.
to approach this
Hmm.
person with really an eye to eye approach. And
Hmm.
and people like Sophia, like the coordinator, like that girl would be my homie. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that we were speaking an hour before the podcast, an hour after the podcast. She would be my homie. Um
So
and
good.
and
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
and that's the people I feel like I should roll with. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
people who are like are as awesome as I am, and as like
Hmm.
on the same grind as I am, and being
Yeah.
able to kind of look at these uh, um these relationships as little investments I'm making in myself for my
Hmm.
own good, and also for just like also filling up the other cups of social interaction,
Hmm.
and sometimes it could be also body, like going to the gym with a person or things like that,
Yeah.
like being able to
Yeah.
fill these cups with people who are also up and coming. I feel like it's
Oh
not
yeah.
very talked about, and people, again, they reach out to me and they're like, what's the secret sauce? What are the best libraries? What is the best way to go?
Plugins.
What is the
Yeah.
best style of music for TV and film? And like there have been people on this
Hmm.
podcast who are like, yeah, hip hop is the best, rock is the best, this is the best.
Yeah.
And I would say, no, fuck all of it. None of it is the best. Like it's just,
Yeah, pretty
it's just,
much.
what are you doing music for? Do you want to make music for soap operas? So you're not gonna make a hard rock. That's it. It's
Yeah.
just like, it's not it's not black or white, and not black
Mm.
and white. It's just so many,
Yeah.
there's so many shades in the middle. And
Yeah.
that's what the biggest thing I want people to take away from this is, there is no one way to skin this cat. And also, to what you were
Hmm.
speaking to, like, the interactions should be with people, not only that can pull you up, but that you can
Yeah.
provide value for, so you both can
Hmm.
rise. And
Yeah.
and it's so much more fun, I feel like. And I know it, and like, I feel like I know it, that it's so much more
Hmm.
fun to make a big leap with a homie, and somebody you came up with, as opposed to somebody
Yeah.
who's already up and is kind of like, whoop, here you go. Because
Yeah.
yeah, that's the shortcut. And it's like, it can have the lottery effect as well. Like, you get pulled up, and then you can't maintain that level, so you get back to to where your thermostat is. And when you're
Yeah.
rising with people, it's just like this effect of like, of this ascendance from down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is what everybody wants the sauce to. And there's no sauce to it, other than really being in the right rooms, and really making these investments in yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm like, I can't remember. I think a friend was quoting a study, that he did some research on, and he was saying like, this study, this paper that was published, was it by like Harvard or like one of those like massive Ivy League universities, and they were like, um, oh, the biggest opportunities, like based on their study at least, the biggest opportunities seem to come from informal
Mhm.
networks. you know so it's not so much about like, oh, um my dad, who's a rich and influential businessman, got me in the door of Disney executives, and they gave me a chance to like write music for their projects. It's not so much that, but it's more like the people you meet along the way who become your
Mhm.
friends, who sort of like are part of your network but without a formal title to
Yeah.
it. Like, you didn't really meet them under like professional circumstances. um these kind of people are people who would naturally or organically want to think of you, when a certain project arises. Like, if you keep, in contact with them consistently, and you develop a proper relationship or friendship with them, I think these are the things that would probably set you apart, from just like, oh yeah, my company works with publisher A, and publisher A has great composer A. So yeah, we are forced to go with great composer A, which maybe I don't really like as a person, but we're forced to use his music because it's part of our contract or something like that, right? I think that could work, obviously, but it's very different, for like when you talk about like long term opportunities. It's like, I want to think of you instead of I need to think of
Mm.
you, you know. So it's like, I want to work with you as opposed to I need to work
Mm.
with you because, like, we're bounded by legal obligation or
Mm.
something, right? So I think this is where the difference is. I think, like, there's a producer, I think he does like more hip hop and pop and stuff, and he's pretty influential. And he said something like, um, a lot of people want to work upwards, right? They want to like network with like the bigger players, the bigger fish in the field. And by all means, you got to keep doing that,
Mm.
right? But, people forget that there's also a lot of value with growing with the people at the same level as you. And I think that really, it hit me, because I'm like, yeah, we're always chasing the bigger publishers, the bigger placements, bigger opportunities, and we should, But when was the last time we collaborated with someone, who's on the same publisher as us, right?
Mm.
When was the last time we co-wrote with someone from a different background, maybe from pop, who doesn't know much about sync, but they have such a unique sound, that you could trailerize one of their pop songs and just pitch it to one of the sync publishers or sync agents. All these things could work, but we don't really think of that. We think about like, oh, this big trailer publisher got a big placement in this show. Like, I gotta write for those
Mm.
guys. So it becomes this like, are we losing sight of the larger picture? Because we're always looking up. And so yeah, that's just my take on it.
That's
Oh,
right. You got
oops, you
cut
dropped out there
off
for a
your
second.
image. Are you there?
Like, yeah, yeah, I'm back.
We are glitching in and out here, but we're that's the that's our conversation today, Greg. We gotta just like we just gotta roll with it, and I guess the listeners will also roll with it. But the thing that I want to conclude in is just like look back and see if you would if you as you know
Hmm.
10 years 15 years ago 20 years ago if you would have told yourself that you would be where you are today, what would you say as a child
Wow.
or as a 20-year-old or as a wherever you guys are fucking at?
Hmm.
um like if you ask yourself this, I mean, what would you say? And I think I would marvel, you know.
Hmm.
um like no flexing here. I think I would actually marvel because the thing is, the reason I'm saying no flexing is because I'm in a pretty like still time in my career where I'm not seeing many results at the same time. I'm seeing
Hmm.
them very gradually, but they are affecting my life.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that I can speak to you about that and kind of recollect and do this. But if you're listening to this, like
Hmm.
have someone to have these conversations with, and I feel like you would feel way better. I have my older brother has an amazing career. He's a startup CEO,
Hmm.
and sometimes I have to catch him to really when he speaks, because he's very entrepreneurial. He doesn't see where he's at. Actually, I'm like, would you fucking believe that you would be here 3 years ago? He's like,
Yeah.
well, you know, it kind of puts him in a corner where he has to admit his success for a moment.
Yeah.
And you know, like I feel like I want to urge people to look that way, to look and after thinking these thoughts, if you still tell yourself that you think you failed, which I believe 95% of the people won't actually
Yeah.
say that, but if you would, then just that's your time to reconsider what is next for you.
Hmm.
What failures are you willing to take? What no's are you willing to take? Because um, I don't believe that there is something that you can't do. I just believe there's something you don't want to do, and that's fine.
Hmm.
um and that's all. Like really, you see people becoming pro athletes when when they start at 17. You
Hmm.
know, it's there's no reasonable explanation to that. Like genes okay, body composition okay, but it's so much in the mind. They were willing to do it, they wanted to do it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, if you don't want it, then how who are you to bog yourself down? You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, like that's a great, like little exercise to do.
Mm,
I feel that, whenever you're losing sight of, or feeling doubtful about a future, especially, if you're talking about like a career in music,
mm,
um, I think it's important to recognize, like, or to look back and chart like the little milestones that you have achieved over the course of your career. Whether you're working a day job and doing music at night on the weekends or something, or like you're doing this full time. I think it's the same. The same principles apply to pretty much everything in life. When you're a little bit lost and you need something to pull you back down and keep you grounded. It's like, yeah, would the you 3, 5, 10 years ago, recognize what you're doing today, or like actually dreamed of, you actually doing what you're doing today, right? I think that is so important because um, who knows what life really throws at us, right? Like,
mm,
at least for myself, I never thought that I would honestly be composing music, for like trailers, TV show, games, whatever. Having my own little studio setup that's not perfect by any means, but it's good enough, to get what I need to get done, right?
mm,
So like I would never have imagined this. It's almost crazy to me. Um, and I think there was a point in my early 20s that I wished, like, oh, it would be so cool to like know what all those knobs in the studio does, like
mm,
what all those like programs, synthesizers, and these kind of things, like what they actually do. But like I would never have thought that it would be plausible or possible to create a career out of the whole thing. Because like growing up, like no one ever tells you like, oh yeah, you want to be a music producer? Like, have you ever thought about that as a possible future? Like, it was
Mhm.
just like, no, you learn an instrument because maybe like you found a song you really like and you want to play it. Or
Yeah.
like, maybe your parents told you it's important to learn, music just to be a little bit all rounded. And
Mhm.
there's so many stories similar to mine, right? And yours for that matter, where I think there's all an overlap of sorts where we never really thought, like majority of us at least, like never really thought that okay, like being a music producer or a composer or whatever, is something that we could potentially turn into our careers, for the rest of our lives or something, or at least the space of our lives.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think what you said was so powerful. Like, thinking back and looking back at our lives, even just like a couple of years or 3, 4 years ago, like, did we think that we'd be here today? You know, it's hard to imagine, right? Like, we don't have to look
Mhm.
far back. Like, COVID changed so many things for so many people,
Mhm.
right? Working remotely, remote collaborations. Not that that wasn't a thing before, but it was significantly um, amplified through being unable to go out and interact with people because of COVID. But ultimately, when I think about my own journey as a creative, like I'm just blown away. Even though it feels like nothing changes
Mhm.
on a day to day basis, you're just doing the same things, meeting people, writing music, talking to publishers, doing revisions, sending deliverables. There's nothing super, inherently different, at least for me. But when I look back at my year, at least insofar, it feels like so many things have changed. It
Mhm.
feels like so many things have developed. And I'm just so grateful for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the ability to adapt, I
Hmm.
think, is the most important thing that comes out of that. Like the ability to really be grateful. I believe that, as people who are going either full time or whatever, like, you know what,
Hmm.
doing whatever, not even music, we are always the heroes of our own story.
Yeah.
And it's our choice. The choice is in our hands to go like, okay, um are we taking this challenge? Like, we are all Moses in a way, right? Like, there's always this revelation for us. And to whoever doesn't know what the story with Moses was,
Hmm.
um, Moses was in Egypt, and he was basically living with the Egyptians. And then God revealed itself to Moses and said, "You have to lead your people out of here."
Hmm.
And he was like, "What the fuck? Who am I? Like, what are you talking about? I'm no one. I am
Yeah.
nobody."
Yeah. Pretty much.
And then God, like, again, showed itself in as a fire and
Hmm.
spoke to him. And that was a moment he could not look back, and he did what it takes. But what is your fire? You know what? Like,
Hmm.
I mean, like, what is your real calling that says, "Look at me, do this"?
Yeah.
And is this music, is this 6 figures a year? Because some people are like, yeah, I want to make 6 figures a year. But do you want to make 6 figures a year? Like, are you really willing to go through what it takes? Do you want to fly to LA 3 times a year to network? Do you want
Yeah.
to do the steps it takes? Do you want to start a publishing company? Do you want to do
Hmm.
all these things that makes people actually reach that 6 figure level? And it takes a certain level of business.
Yeah.
And that, another thing is, it ties to something that you were saying, about believing, like, understanding where you are at right now in relation
Yeah.
to where you were. Like, if you would ask me 5 to 10 years ago, again, like, you'd be having a podcast right now, and you'd be speaking to the most amazing people, including you, in this industry, and just like chopping it up with them.
Yeah.
What would I believe that? I would say, like, nah. I would say, I don't have it. I don't know if I have it in me. I wasn't able to run with that fire. I wasn't able to see that calling yet.
Yeah.
But there's always another fire. There's always another calling. And really tuning in and saying, okay, this is, I'm done. I've seen the fire. Now I want to get my people out of this fucking dump.
Yeah.
and get them out of slavery or whatnot. And your people is your inside. Your people is your heart. Your people is everything
Hmm.
like that. And yeah, and sometimes your people are your people. Like sometimes for me, I really, one of my biggest goals in life is to be able to buy my family a home. Like it's a goal. It's a goal that I
Yeah.
have. And 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 I'm going towards it, like that's the all the premise, all this pep talk I'm doing right now is also
Yeah.
for myself, but it's also
Hmm.
for people who are actually listening and going like what, and again it ties back to like what is the one library that can get me six figures. It
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. Like
Yeah.
your movement and your momentum is what's going to create six figures, or for that matter four figures, if you want that like extra check for like extra boost to be
Hmm.
able to buy your child like something, a
Hmm.
toy or whatnot, like be able to if that music for you is what will enable your child to go to school, then
Hmm.
that's what it is. Like it can be so many things. There's so many ways to skin this cat. You just got to decide which one it is for you, and then like AI will happen, things will happen.
Hmm.
We've always adapted as a species. What will happen with our money, we still don't know. Like there will always be adaptations to be made, but
Yeah.
how are we rising to it? That's the question, the big
Hmm.
question, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, like amazing. Like the points that you spoke about, like adaptability and finding and realizing, like it's really indeed a process, a journey. I've spoken about this quite a bit,
yeah,
and not being hyper focused on results like six figure check, five figure check, like seven figure check. I mean, if you can, right? Like all these kind of things are great and important milestones, but it also should not define you. Like,
mm,
oh, I'm in my fifth year of writing. I don't have those six figure checks yet. Why? I suck. Like it's strange that sometimes, like, it almost sounds funny when I put it this way, but a lot of times we essentially put ourselves into that box and we go like, I've been doing this for so long, why do I not have the results that I hope
mm,
for? Or why
mm,
is it like when I read a book or took a course, they told me at the end of 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be earning this amount of money. Where's that
mm,
magic bullet? What plug-in is like, where's the magic plug-in? Right. And you realize like it doesn't happen. Right.
can
There's no
waves
magic
make me six
plug-in.
figures a year?
Hey, Waves, are y'all
How
listening?
can, bro, that's my new course. How can damage make you six figures a year?
Dude, that is so funny.
It
Like we should
can't
totally.
anymore.
Sorry, guys.
Damage
Damage one
cannot
is.
make you six figures a year anymore.
It's kind of an
People
old
recognize damage.
library.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, you're totally right, right? And like
Uh,
what you said, it's like the your action, your ebb and flow, it's your momentum that's gonna create these things, or not, right?
mm,
Not some magic plugin,
mm,
not some magic sample library, or not
yeah,
some
man.
magic publisher. I mean, if you come across a publisher that guarantees you six figure a year, hit me up. Like I want to know which
And they're
publisher
probably
does
lying
that.
to you.
Ah, definitely. Yeah, it's
Unless they're
probably a red
paying you
flag.
like upfront, like a magical deal.
Oh
They're lying
yeah,
to
like
you.
they're so super
Yeah.
talented that they're gonna
Yeah.
give you that amount of money
Or
and
you're doing music for a film, which congrats.
oh yeah, like
Um,
definitely. If like
yeah.
you land a project, not saying it's impossible, but if you spend your composer career, producer career hunting for these kind of things, and the lack of them sort of defines you, like that you're not good enough, then I think the problem lies with the mindset, as opposed to actually whether these projects exist or not. Right. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it doesn't, probably like, the triple A level, it could, but if you're not there yet or you don't have access to those kind of things, then probably it's good to evaluate where you're at and
Yeah.
see how you can work towards that
Yeah.
without recognizing the fact that without reaching those goals, it doesn't make you any less of a person or any less of a
Mm,
producer or a composer. And I think more people need to internalize the whole thing, right?
mm,
So brilliant points. I love the part about like ebb and flow and momentum and like how your actions actually define your future in that sense. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. 100%, man. I mean,
love it.
yeah, I think it's a good place to leave it. We'll speak offline, but I mean, like,
Hmm.
man, is let me ask you this: where do you feel like the industry is going towards, like the library
Mm-hmm.
business and agencies, do you feel like it has a certain it's going to a certain direction? Do you feel like there's something that you're asked for more lately as a
Mm-hmm.
custom composer? Where do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like things are going in? What's the date today? What's the date?
Well,
July 19th,
yeah, like
2023.
let's not hope let's hope that we don't have to look back at this and say this aged well or something like that. Well, I think there's a lot of talk about like AI. There's a lot of talk about like um old music catalogs killing new music. Like people don't listen new music anymore or something like that. But like I think for me, at least in the sync licensing or the library music business, I think that it will always stay a people business. And what I mean is not necessary that it's going to be the status quo, because that's totally not true. But I think people or clients or publishers or editors or anyone supervisors, they value the fact that they can interact with a human composer, and they can like communicate with them about their vision and their creativity and all the kind of good stuff that we're currently doing. And I think that's going to be amplified more.
Mm,
I think with the rise of AI, which many people are talking about, and are like worrying about, you know, I think there is a place in the industry for it. But I think if you strive towards the top level of sync licensing, of publishing, or trailers, or anything of that sort, the triple A games, I think the human connection will always stay what it is. Or
mm,
in fact, because of AI, ironically, I think it would strengthen it even further, because like I could get a reference of an AI track, and like they go like, yeah, this is close to what we want, but there are so many things wrong with it in this area, this part. I want it changed, but I want your touch to it, I want your sound to it, I want that human element to it. So I'm not saying there's no future. There's a future where there's going to be um, an AI, which it's impossible for AI to take over us. I'm not saying that.
mhm,
I'm saying more of like like until that future comes, I think the human connection is going to be stronger than ever, because like this whole podcast, this whole episode, we're spoken about like how the human interaction or growing with the people at the same level as you are is so important,
mm,
right? I truly think that at the top level, I can't imagine an executive of a massive media company going like, yeah, there is composer A who has like 6 credits under his belt, but we like the AI more. It just feels a
mm,
little bit strange to me, right? Not saying it couldn't happen. Again, this is up in the air. Who knows? But I think like if that executive grew with you when that person was like, just like an entry level executive, when you were an entry level composer, it's going to be such a high chance that they remember you, that they appreciate your services, or they remember just having a good time with you, having drinks with you, having great conversations with you, having a friendship with you, right? And I think after all of that is considered, if this person were the sole decision maker, I don't think he or she's going to go, nah, the AI is better, right?
mm,
So I think more than ever, we need to strengthen human relationships. I think
yeah,
we need to come closer together as a music industry, and music industry tagged along with all these media companies that we write music for, and stuff like that. I think this is what the future is going to look like. I think the future is actually more collaboration. I think the
mm,
future is actually more human connection. I
mm,
think the future is, sure, there'll be some room for AI, whether that's in the processing side or that's in the low end composition side, the quick and easy side.
mm,
But ultimately, this is what I feel it's going to be like. I feel like there's going to be more bridges that are built between different music industries in different countries. For
mm,
example, like there are a lot of Western songwriters writing for like K-pop artists and stuff like that. So things like that. I think this is the future. Yeah.
mm.
Hmm.
Well, okay, we're gonna have this a similar conversation in the near future and see
Oh
how
yeah.
stupid we are,
It's like,
how stupid
hopefully,
we
like I
were.
said, we don't look
Yeah,
back and go like, oh yeah, this aged well.
yeah, yeah. I also hope, bro. So
Yeah.
where can people find you?
Yo, if you guys are on Instagram, hit me up at Greg Tan Music. Or if you are on Facebook, it's literally just yeah, Gregory Tan, or same for LinkedIn. Yeah. Otherwise, my website, gregtanmusic.net. Yeah, drop a message, say hi.
Sick.
Um, yeah, awesome.
I'll I'll leave the all the info in the show notes, bro.
Oh yeah.
I'm so happy to be calling somebody like you my friend, and I'm
Hey,
so
likewise.
so grateful for this conversation. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was great. Like great ideas, great sharing, and thank you for this platform. So yeah,